Welcome to episode 9 of The Accursed. This is a story you are going to want to listen to from the beginning. If you're just jumping in now, I suggest going back to episode 1 and starting there. This podcast shares some scares and frights. It may also delve into adult themes. Specific content warnings are in the show notes of each episode. Please check there so that you can honor yourself and your needs. I had episode 9 all ready to go, recorded and everything. But then another letter showed up. I've mostly been sharing these stories in the order that they've arrived. It just seemed an easy way to go about doing it. And I figured if I wanted or needed to read a story out of order, I could. And as you may have guessed, this is one of those times. So this podcast comes out on Wednesday mornings, Eastern time zone at least. And last Wednesday, episode 8 was released. That night, in the early hours of Thursday, another story was left. Not unusual, except that a story had been left the night before that, too. Now, there are plenty of times I've gotten more than one letter in a week, but never 2 nights in a row. That's, though, not why I decided to switch things around. I scrapped the original episode because the letter that I got on Wednesday was about the lake. The same lake I read a story about last week. I feel like I say this a lot, but it probably means nothing. It's probably just me spending too much time with these stories. I know I'm reading into things too much. I do that. But on the off chance that I'm not, if getting this last story is some acknowledgement that who's ever giving me these letters is listening, I don't want to just gloss over that. So, in case you are listening, I want to know why. I want to know a whole lot more too. Like, what are these stories? But I feel like I might be able to figure that out. Maybe someday, but the why, I don't have a glimmer of. Why are you giving them to me? What's the point? What's the purpose? Maybe there isn't one, but I'd like to know that too. So if you're listening, that's what I want to know. You know how to find me, clearly. Okay, so enough of my pleas for now. Here is the story that was left for me very early Thursday morning. We should have never gone to the lake, Arthur and I. Not at night. Not ever if I had my way. I told him I needed to get home, but he just tapped his fingers nervously on the steering wheel, saying that there was something he needed to talk about. I should have insisted, but the heart is quite a beast, isn't she? He turned onto the long drive up to the house, but stopped the car at the lake at the bottom of the hill. The crows quickly gathered on the ground in front of the car as we looked out over the water, their eyes and feathers shining in the dark off the headlights. Arthur ignored them, seemingly not giving them a second thought. He put his arm around me. pulling me close, making me wonder of his intentions. He whispered something in my ear, but I didn't hear it. I couldn't. The claws of the crows raked against my skin, and I wanted to know what was out there, in the woods, in the world. It all appeared still, and I was the fool to think that meant anything at all. The mist settled in low. I tried to keep my eyes away from the lake, away from the fog that knotted itself into angry maws, waiting, wanting. Arthur cleared his throat, and I tried to push everything else away. But the crows drew closer, louder, and under it all was something else. A song I knew, one that crept under my skin and clawed at my breath, a song different from the hum of the woods. It was like there were words being sung, but just far enough away that I couldn't hear. And so they taunted me, reminding me that we weren't alone out here in the night, as if I could ever forget. Arthur started to speak, but the radio clicked on, though neither one of us touched it. The static was sudden, loud, overtaking the crows, and he jumped. I just laughed nervously, trying to pretend, like Mama always had. He turned the volume down, but the crackle broke through anyway. He wouldn't stop fiddling, trying to fix the radio, turning the dials and pressing the buttons. I made my voice sticky sweet like Mama, wanting him to look back at me, wanting to go. It's probably a short, he said, his jaw tight as he tried turning the volume down again. Arthur went to turn the car off, and I grabbed his hand. The no that came out of my mouth was too sharp and too loud, but I was afraid it wouldn't turn back on. It didn't matter. He did as he pleased, and just for a moment, the world around us went quiet. Even the crows stopped. Relief wrapped in sheep's clothing. I knew it even then. "Let's just go," I said gently, wanting him to hear me while he still could. I tried, but he sighed as if all was well and leaned into me. But then I heard my name, whispered within the static, coming from somewhere. Hazel, Hazel, Hazel. It was soft, but there, clear. I looked around, pretending that I didn't hear, that I didn't understand. "Arthur, please drive me home." I tried again, but he couldn't hear me past his fear. The crows started up again, louder, jumping, hollering. The headlights were still shining on them. We should not have come here. A shadow passed in front of the car, blocking the light long enough for panic to settle into both of us. The crows scattered, leaving us alone with the night. I looked over at Arthur. He sat frozen, pale. His eyes were looking for whatever might be out there, trying to make sense of it all. I grabbed Arthur's arm, hoping that a damsel in distress would bring him back from whatever edge he found himself on, but he didn't move. Then, again, the voice, my name, louder, clearer, and there was no pretending now. Arthur turned to look at me, flushed with anger, as if this were my fault, as if it were my doing. The shadow moved across the headlights again as something sharp scraped against the roof of the car. My stomach dropped. I did not want to find out what would happen next. I began to beg Arthur to turn the car on. Please, please, let's go, please. The crows shrieked from somewhere in the darkness, and I dug my nails into Arthur's arm, and he finally snapped to and began frantically trying to turn the car on. The engine sputtered, and the mist drew closer, looking like vines trying to strangle us. Beyond, in the lake, a woman. Barely. A shape I remembered from once upon a time. Arthur! I screamed, and the engine finally turned over, the car shuddering back to life. He sped out, back to the drive and up to the house, his hands shaking as he held onto the wheel for dear life. We sat for a spell in front of the house, not speaking, both of us trying to catch our breath or gather our wits. I wanted to say something that would make it all better, but we were long past that. After a moment, he asked me what that was, what he saw, though I knew he didn't want the truth. So instead, I kissed him softly on the cheek, and with a voice as sweet as pie, I told him it was nothing. Really, nothing he needed to worry about at all. My assumption is that Hazel is in her teens during this story. In the bonus story, which you can get for signing up for the mailing list at theaccursed.com, is actually sort of about the first time she meets Arthur at a high school dance. That and a couple of stories that I haven't shared with you yet are coloring my assumption. Also, the going parking also feels teenage coded, though she might have been older, different times and all. It's interesting to me how Hazel channels her mother in this story, the pretending, the affected sweetness in her voice. It feels like a glimpse into Rosalie in a way, or maybe just a different lens of how Hazel had seen her. And speaking of Hazel's mother, I do have another story that features her. This is one that I had planned on including in the original episode 9. Mama always said our town felt like it was suffocating her and scratching at her skin all at once. I don't know why she'd been there then, except that she'd gotten a job at a hotel near town, working as the night caretaker, there if anyone should be needing anything in the late hours. She had her own room, one with a bathroom down the hall. It was tiny but clean, and every so often she would bring me to stay with her. There was a cot she would put under the window so that I could watch the street below if I got bored. The building itself was old, not big at all, but still beautiful. The lobby had a stone fireplace that roared all winter long, and couches with carved wooden arms. Gran told me the place had been a dance hall right up until Mama was a little girl. I wasn't afraid of staying in the room alone when Mama worked. I knew better than to answer the door, even when whoever was out there whistling all night would knock over and over. I could never see any feet if I looked under the door, so I did my best not to worry about nothing. Back then, I still wanted Mama to think I was brave. I woke one night when I was staying there, needing to use the washroom. I'd forgotten, but Mama had told me to leave the door propped open because it locked when it shut behind you. I didn't realize the trouble until after I had done my business. I knew Mama would be cross at me for bothering her, but it would be worse if she found me sitting in the hallway, waiting there all night long. I decided to take the stairs. The man who smoked cigars in the elevator gave me the shivers, and so I never liked to take it, at least not alone. I walked down the hall, and when I turned the corner, I saw Mama opening the door to the stairwell. Her hair, too golden for her age, hung in waves down her back, and she had on the dress she'd put on just before tucking me in for the night. The blue one with the little flowers. I started to run towards her, knowing better than to holler in the hallway, but the door closed behind her before I caught up. The stairwell was cold and the lights flickered. I could see the top of her head from one flight down. "Mama," I said in the loudest whisper I could, but she didn't turn. She didn't hear me. I walked faster, called her name again. She stayed just far enough away. I kept seeing the edge of her dress or the swish of her hair as she rounded a corner, and fear crawled up my spine. I bit my lip to keep from crying, to keep from stopping. I thought maybe she was trying to scare me. Thought she would go to the lobby and then have a laugh when I came racing through the door. But she just kept going down the stairs. I only managed to catch a glimpse of her as the basement door slammed shut. I followed. The basement wasn't forbidden as far as I'd known, though I'd never actually been. I closed the door lightly, hoping it wouldn't lock behind me just in case. Whatever space I stepped into was dark, damp. I tried to choke back the tears that wanted to turn to sobs in my chest. When my eyes adjusted, I saw a soft light coming from somewhere other than wherever I was. I heard footsteps, heels clicking on the hard ground, and I knew it was Mama. I ran towards her, calling for her. I used my whole voice, but it was swallowed up by the shadows. I ran, following a hallway that seemed to twist and split, the light always just a little further away than it should be. Somewhere ahead, a door slammed, and I yelped. I started to cry, unable to hold the panic in one more second. "Mama," I hollered again, and I waited, hoping, but there was nothing. Nothing except for a piano playing softly, somewhere in the distance. I didn't think. I just started to run towards it, saying "Mama" over and over. The music grew louder as I neared a room, though there was no door, just an open space to walk through, and so I did. And there she was, sitting on the piano bench, her back to me, playing a song I didn't know. "Mama!" I screamed with all I had left in me. Fear and relief tumbled out as my voice broke. But she didn't turn around. She just kept playing louder and faster. I needed her to stop. I needed her to see me. I tried to call her name again, but I froze as I watched what I thought was my mother finally turn and show me a shadow where her face should have been. I screamed because there was nothing else I could do as she faded away, the piano still playing. I screamed and screamed as I shut my eyes and dropped to the floor, screamed as I heard a voice push through the darkness, and I screamed when I felt a hand on my shoulder. She shouted at me, saying I was going to wake the dead. Mama grabbed me and pulled me into the elevator, the cigar smoke choking me. Even as I tried to keep my eyes shut, I clung to her even as I feared her wrath. "Where did you go?" I said in between racked sobs. "I've been here, working, Hazelnut. What do you think?" I tried to tell her what I had seen, but all she did was sigh and say, "We won't be talking about that. Do you hear me?" And I did. But Mama let me sit with her in the lobby until the sun came up. The concept of doppelgangers or mimics gets under my skin. I feel like I've heard so many stories of people seeing a family member walk through their house, only to have that person arrive home 10 minutes later. It feels so insidious to me. A mimic creeping into your life and your house, pretending to be someone they're not. Why? To get closer? To scare you more? I guess I'm a little stuck on the why of it all today. I've never had an experience with a mimic, and I hope sincerely that I never do. I also imagine Hazel to be young in that story. Very young. I think that makes it all the more terrifying. To be afraid, to need your mother, and for what you see to not be what it appears. Though I suppose that is par for the course in Hazel's life. Well, that is what I have for you this week. As always, if you have questions or ideas or maybe an answer as to why, I would love to hear it. You can email me at JoAnna@theaccursed.com. Until next week, goodbye. The Accursed is written, created, and all around conjured by me, Anna Dane. You can find out more about the show at theaccursed.com or on Instagram at The Accursed Podcast. You can find out more about me at JoAnnaDane.com. The intro and outro song, Cathedral, is provided by Moby Gratis. Want an extra bonus story? Sign up for our mailing list at theaccursed.com, and one will be delivered right to your inbox. If you like the show, there are 2 ways you can help us out. First, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you happen to listen. Second, share us with other folks in your world who might like a good ghost story. Thanks again for listening. Bye.